Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth.
On Now You Know. In Depth is brought to you by ecoware.us, where you can find the shirts that Zach and I are wearing. And for everything that you purchase, we carbon offset the production, the shipping, and the life cycle of every product. And for every order, we plant a tree and we help cap a well.
And there's free shipping on everything. And we're brought to you by abetterrouteplanner.com, our favorite EV trip planner with waypoints. Use our link in the show notes below to get a 30-day free trial to the A Better Route Planner Premium app and plan your next EV trip with abetterrouteplanner.com.
And we're sponsored by BigBattery.com, with the best battery prices in the USA guaranteed. If you've got something you need to power from homes to cars, RVs to boats, and much more, BigBattery.com has you covered. Offering the newest battery tech. Use the code NOWYOUKNOW to save 5% off your purchase today at BigBattery.com. This episode is sponsored by Skillshare.
Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including design, photography, video editing, freelancing, and way more.
I recently took Video on a Budget. Prepare Your Shoot Without Breaking the Bank by Christopher Rhodes, aka YC Imaging.
So why'd you take that?
Well, we run a YouTube channel and I wanted to learn some new tips on how to shoot better at locations. He had some really useful tips on using phone apps at the location to pre-visualize shots and even predict where the sun would be.
Oh, okay. So why not just watch a YouTube video though?
Well, it only took me 38 minutes to watch all 10 classes because you can speed it up. It would have taken me 38 minutes just to find a relevant YouTube video.
Oh, right. Skillshare has no ads.
Yeah, and it was broken into bite-sized lessons.
So you can stop and practice what you learned.
Exactly. And for less than the price of a book on the subject, you can take a class and get access to over 20,000 curated courses, all with no ads.
Yeah, that's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription.
And the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial to Skillshare Premium. So as many of you who follow the channel may know, we're going to be getting one of the first Rivian R1T pickup trucks, currently scheduled for this June.
And I mean, we're really excited to bring you videos and information all about it. But one of the biggest aspects of the Rivian that I'm interested in is charging. Will I be able to hop in the R1T and do all the things that I want as effortlessly as I can with my Tesla Model X?
Because here's the thing. The Tesla supercharging network, to me, is what makes Tesla awesome. Do I use it every day? No. But it's always there when I need it for both fairly short trips, like going to pick someone up from the airport, or weird days when you go on a day trip, or you have to do multiple stops.
And of course, it's there when we go for longer trips, like when we went to visit the police chief down in Westport, Connecticut to check out their new Model 3 police car, or even one of our many cross-country road trips. So as the reality of owning the R1T becomes clearer in my mind, I begin asking the question, will the R1T become our daily driver? Because I'm really looking forward to having a pickup truck. I used to have a Dodge van. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I loved the utility. I could drive it to job sites and pick up everything. Doors, bricks, lumber. And even though Sparky is an SUV, and we picked up plenty of stuff in it that probably would make most Model X owners cringe, like concrete blocks and concrete. And even we've put Christmas trees on the roof, and we towed e-bikes in trailers down to Savannah, Georgia. But the thing is, Sparky is not a pickup truck, so I'm excited to have that versatility.
And the Rivian R1T is going to be the first electric pickup truck. But if the charging doesn't at least approach that of the supercharger network, then we're going to be in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, this is kind of a first world problem. I totally get it. But can the Rivian R1T replace our Model X and kind of become our daily driver?
So the first thing to do is to check out the existing charging infrastructure. And we basically have to ignore all of the Tesla superchargers and the Tesla destination chargers because none of those are going to work on the R1T.
Which is kind of weird for us because for the most part, that's all I really pay attention to. Now, you have a Leaf, so you pay attention more to other networks, and I'm going to be going to you for expert advice here on this episode. But the Rivian, according to CEO RJ Scaringe, will charge DC using CCS standard, and he says that it will be able to charge 140 miles in about 20 minutes. Now, I looked around and I couldn't find any other hard stats for the Rivian. They didn't seem to say how many kilowatts it can charge, so we had to do kind of back of the napkin math, and we figured out that 140 miles in 20 minutes, well, that implies that it can handle about 150 kilowatts.
Now, to put that into perspective, that's most of the superchargers that came online before around 2018, 2019.
Right.
It's, supercharger level. It's not 250 kilowatts. It's going to be probably like 120 or 150 kilowatts.
Right. Now, for AC charging, if you want to plug it in at home or at a level 2 charger, it can charge at 110 volts or 220 volts at 16 miles per hour. this implies probably about a 40 amp maximum level 2 charge.
And again, this works really well for home charging. So basically, anytime you need to sleep, because this will even work at a hotel, you need to recharge in about the same amount of time that most EVs will take level 2 to recharge.
But I will say, at 16 miles an hour, if you really emptied the tank that day and the first R1T is going to have 350 miles of range, it would take about a full day of charging to get it back up to full. So keep that in mind. All right, so I think the best way to put this in perspective for me is to think about the kinds of trips we do on a fairly regular basis. We usually go either like down to New York, somewhere along that, or we go up north to like Montreal. So could you help me out and figure out, if we need to do one of those trips, what are we looking at in terms of charging?
So I think the first thing to look at is the level 2 charging. This probably isn't going to get you to the place that you want to go, but it is a backup. It'll make sure that you don't, run out of juice. You'll be able to hopefully get to one of these. So you want a really big, wide map full of a lot of different chargers. And as you can see in our neck of the woods, it's a pretty good safety net.
Oh, great. Well, we're done. I mean, there's plenty of charging. Episode over. We're good.
Well, no.
See you guys.
Again, it would take about 10 hours to fully charge the R1T at one of these chargers. So unless you're sleeping there, it's not the kind of charger that you're going to want to use on your way somewhere.
In fact, this is just kind of confusing things for me because, to be honest, as a Tesla driver, I don't really stop at level 2 charging anymore. Yeah, I don't want to be all bougie about it, but basically, we're just used to charging at way faster speed. So can you show me a map of something that's faster?
Okay, so let's look at all the DC chargers. As you can see, there's a fair number of them. It's not the safety net that we were seeing for the level 2, but it seems that you can get around to most places.
All right, so let me take a look at this. So, I mean, going down to New York, it looks like we're pretty good. It looks like along the routes we normally take, seems to be a lot of chargers. A little more sparse through New Hampshire and Vermont, but it looks like probably, except for that little middle section of New Hampshire, we could probably do it.
Well, the thing to keep in mind here with this chart is that we're looking at all DC chargers, but not all DC chargers are created equal. We are looking at 50 kilowatts and up.
Oh, wait. Okay, so 50 kilowatts. Again, this isn't something we normally do in a Tesla. We normally charge at, even an urban charger is 72 kilowatts.
So to recharge at a 50 kilowatt station, it would take you about 2 hours.
Okay, so a really long lunch or something.
Right. It's some fun destination that you'd want to go to, although most of these chargers are not at those kinds of places.
Okay, so then I think we need to dial this down even more. I think we need at least, 120 kilowatts or faster. Can you show me a map of that?
Yes. So let's take a look at this. And again, PlugShare is a great resource for this. You can see that it's not quite the same map that we were looking at before.
Holy cow. Going north, we're in a bit of a problem. There's not much between here and Montreal.
Right. So,
I mean, going south, okay, but...
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So let's say that we want to go from Boston to New York, and we're going to use our favorite EV trip planner, a Better Route Planner. And you can actually input a Rivian.
Oh, cool.
So if you were like, I'm not sure about getting a Rivian, can we get to Grandma's house? Open up a Better Route Planner, let's check it out. So let's say that we leave Boston with 90%. So we planned the night before, we charged up the night before, and I want to get to New York with about 60%. I don't want to get there with 10%. So I put in a destination arrival of 60%. That's enough to drive around New York, go to lunch, do whatever we're going to do, and then leave New York without having to charge in New York because nobody wants to do that. Okay, so here is what our trip would look like.
So it looks like we're going to stop at 2 charging spots to get to New York.
So both of these are going to be Electrify America stations, and they're pretty high rated. The one thing to keep in mind is that one of them is a 4-stall station.
I'm not a big fan of 4 stalls. Like, we do that on Tesla Supercharger Network sometimes, but it's always my last choice because 1 or 2 stalls are usually iced because generally if it's 4 stalls, it's in a smaller parking lot. And then, of course, you got cars charging at the other one. So it could be that you pull in and you got to wait.
And when we see Tesla Superchargers that have 4 stalls, they're usually way out in the boonies. They're not necessarily usually along a major, artery of the country.
Right.
So, that's one thing to keep in mind, but we can pretty much get there and get back. And even if one of the chargers is broken or iced or whatever, there are other chargers around for us to stop at. It's nothing to worry about. So that's great. The Rivian is going to be able to get us to New York.
All right, but how about going north to Montreal?
That's a little trickier, but you can do it. Here, we'll take a look.
Okay, so wait, let me see this route here. Whoa, wait a minute. I got to go all the way west through Massachusetts and then head north through Vermont? I've never taken that route to Montreal.
Right. There's no 100 kilowatt plus CCS chargers in New Hampshire or Vermont that are in any way on our route.
Oh, crap. All right. So how long would it take to get to Montreal using this route?
It would take about 9.5 hours.
9.5 hours. Okay, but what about the more direct route there, the gray one?
That one's actually going to take you 42 minutes longer because you're going to have to stop at a 50 kilowatt station and charge for 2 hours.
This is why a Better Route Planner is so great, because I would have just started right off on the more direct route, but that's not the right route.
Right. And so it'll add more time, and you're going to be looking at a 10-hour trip to Montreal.
Okay. We need to put this in perspective for people, because
Yes.
I think most people are like, well, I don't know how long it normally takes to get from Boston to Montreal. So let's give them some other cases here.
All right, let's do the worst case scenario in a Tesla. Let's say it's an older Model X, so 75 kilowatt hour battery. It's a smaller battery. And let's even say that it has limited supercharging speeds.
Okay.
So this is like you go out and you buy a used Model X or something like that, and you want to drive to Montreal. It's going to take you 8 hours.
Oh, wow. So an hour faster in a way older car.
Exactly. But this is the worst case scenario. Let's take a look at the best case scenario. It would only take you 6 hours in a Model 3 long range.
Wow. I mean, that is about what it takes in a gas car. I mean, maybe you could do it in 5.
But yeah, there's no charging in the middle of those two states. Electrify America doesn't even plan to put chargers anywhere along that route.
Oh,
You can take a look at their map here. You can see that there are some planned chargers, down in Nashua and Manchester, but there's nothing in the middle of New Hampshire and Vermont. So there's no good route to get us there.
all right. So you can see from this example here that if we were to get the Rivian today, we would have limited charging options, especially going north.
Now, to be fair, Rivian has said that they are going to be building their own adventure network of chargers.
Yeah, they said for charging on the road, we're building the Rivian Adventure Network, a comprehensive nationwide network of fast charging stations capable of adding up to 140 miles of range in 20 minutes.
And RJ has said that Rivian will be building dozens of these charging stations, each station having 6 connectors. And this should be built in the US this year. So this is where Rivian could do some good, because they could fill this gap with their adventure charging network. And it makes sense for them to cover New Hampshire and Vermont, because there's tons of great skiing and hiking and adventuring, all the things you want to do in your Rivian.
This is really one of those big question marks that I'm waiting for Rivian to answer, because it really depends where they put those chargers. If they don't put one in the right place in Vermont and New Hampshire, or a few of them, then I'm not going to be able to do a bunch of things in the Rivian that I could do in a Tesla.
Because they need to expand off of Electrify America network and make it work. So they need to have some that are on the highway. I know that RJ Scringe has said that they want to put some like at places where you're going to be doing rock climbing or something, but I don't want to go an hour off the highway to charge if I'm trying to get to Montreal. So
Right.
I think that they're going to need to, build along major routes.
And this is where I had an idea. As we know, Rivian has major investment from Amazon. In 2019, Amazon invested $700 million. And then in 2020, Amazon was again in for an undisclosed amount, but it was a $2.5 billion round, and I'm guessing Amazon wanted to keep their stake. So I'm going to conjecture that Amazon has a total of about $1.5 billion invested in Rivian. That makes them a major shareholder. So now, what else does Amazon own?
Amazon Prime, and they got the AWS stuff. I don't get what you're saying.
Well, you may have forgotten, but Amazon bought Whole Foods a while ago.
That's okay, right?
So yeah, there's 500 Whole Food markets in the United States. And let's call up a map of Whole Foods markets so we can see where they are.
Wow, that's pretty good coverage, especially in urban areas.
Yeah, and let's use this other map here, because this map shows that there's usually a lot of Whole Foods kind of densely packed into more urban areas. So it's a little bit misleading. It doesn't look like 500, but there are 500 in the US. Okay, so here's my idea. Rivian/Amazon install chargers at every Whole Foods market in the US. Now, I would install at least 6 chargers at each location. At least 3 of those should be CCS, and the rest maybe level 2. Now, you cover every store with solar panels. And as we reported this week on Tesla Time News, they could buy these from Beam Solar. These are solar-powered chargers that require no permits, no installation construction like trenches or conduit. You just plop them in a parking spot, and you get 2 spaces with 265 miles a day of charging.
Now, those are level 2 chargers. You want to have DC fast charging. And what speeds were you thinking for that in terms of kilowatts?
I was thinking at least 50 kilowatts. I would love it if they were 150 or more. I mean,
Right.
or like EA with 350 kilowatts. But since Rivian probably can't even take those speeds, maybe you don't bother.
Yeah, I mean, I think anywhere between 50 to 150 kilowatts would be really nice.
So Rivian is banking on owners using the 800 Electrify America network chargers, and many are located at Walmarts. Now, if they had another 500 locations at Whole Foods markets, this would actually fit Rivian's customer base better. Now, I'm just being honest here. If you're buying a Rivian, then you're probably wealthier and you're probably going to fit as a customer better at Whole Foods rather than Walmart.
Now, obviously, they don't put Whole Foods in the middles of nowhere. That's where the Walmarts be. So the Whole Foods coverage is not going to be across, nation to nation. You're going to be able to drive from Whole Foods to charge your nice Rivian.
Right. This will really supplement Electrify America's network well because Electrify America is well placed along highways, whereas Whole Foods cover a different kind of location. They're more urban/suburban. Many towns that I know that have a Walmart in them do not have a Whole Foods market in them, and vice versa. And to me, this would be a really good investment for Amazon, who I think should actually foot the bill. I mean, Rivian, although they've got a lot of investment coming in, don't have, I don't think, the cash flow to install a huge network. And so I think this actually fits Amazon a lot better. It brings in customers to Whole Foods. So imagine this. You go to Whole Foods and you see a row of EV chargers, maybe half of which say Rivian only.
Now, why only half? Why wouldn't it be all of them for Rivian only?
Well, because I was thinking, you've got Leaf owners and you've got e-tron owners and Bolt owners. And so, why exclude them?
I see. But maybe just the fast chargers are for Rivian or something like that. I mean, because you wouldn't want to arrive in your Rivian and have a bunch of Bolts or something in your way. And you're like, why are all these people here?
Yeah, maybe they should be separated to a different part of the parking lot. Keep the Rivian separate from the Leafs. I don't know.
I don't know. Right. And this could actually be Rivian's way, and actually Amazon's way, of keeping up with the Tesla network.
Yeah, and I'd like to discuss what a charging location actually is. We're really used to gas stations, right? Where it's a relatively small footprint. And that is because you can refill a gas car in about 5 minutes. So there's cars constantly coming and going. There's usually a convenience store attached to most gas stations. And so people are, hopping in there to pick up some convenience store items.
Why is there always a convenience store there? Why don't they just sell gas?
Well, it's because they can't make any money on gas. The average gas station has a profit margin of, get this, only 1.7%.
Of profit margin on the gas?
Yeah, when you buy a gallon of gas, well, you haven't bought one lately, but when someone does, they're only paying about 10 to 15 cents per gallon of profit. And so you couldn't stay open if that was it. You have to make money somewhere else. So you build a convenience store. So let's take a look at the chart of profit margins in the convenience store. So when you're selling things like candy, snacks, milk, and health and beauty care, you're getting profits of 30, 40, 50+%.
So gas stations totally don't work without the convenience store. Why are we expecting charging stations to be able to function without something else that makes money?
Well, and to be honest, this is why I'm not investing much of my hard-earned money in all these SPACs that are coming online for ChargePoint and EVgo, because I don't really believe that they're going to make money on their own, just like I don't believe most gas stations make much money on their own, because there's not going to be much margin on electricity.
And most of the time, the chargers are just like, could we please put in a charger somewhere? Who would let us put in a charger? And, some, nice, museum or something like, oh, you could put in a charger here. But no one's going to go to that museum of, whaling or something like that. That people want, I want convenience. I want a pharmacy. I want a convenience store. I want a Whole Foods.
Yeah. I mean, with EV charging, let's be honest, and I know this won't be popular with many EV owners out there, but for the next few years at least, it takes longer than it does at a gas station. We don't have the futuristic solid-state battery yet, which you can charge in 5 minutes. It's not here, and it's probably not going to be here for 5-10 years. So you're going to need more chargers, and you're going to need a bigger lot of land. So having a Whole Foods market means that EV drivers will shop, and they will shop in many cases for longer than they would have otherwise. According to Wall Street Journal, retailers that get shoppers to linger in their stores see sales of 20 to 40% more.
And stats that I've found show that the average shopper spends about $50 per visit, both at Walmart and Whole Foods.
Isn't that funny?
I mean, I've seen people pay $300 at Whole Foods, but I guess the average, go get a cake, go get some oysters
flowers,
or something.
right.
And yeah, okay, I see. It's $50 is going to be the average. But I mean, if shoppers are lingering, that means that they're going to spend an extra $10, $20 more.
Exactly. And that longer shopping visit that generates the 20 to 40% more, makes up for the charging. In fact, I'd offer it for free if I was Whole Foods during certain hours to get customers in during slow periods. Because you can imagine that when you first open the store and no one's there at 7 o'clock in the morning, if you said, hey, if you come between 7 and 9, it's free charging, you might bring in customers during that period where you really want them, where they're not gumming up the store. Because at 5 p.m. when everyone's off work, the place is packed.
Right. And I mean, this could be flexible and flowable and, could just use computers to say like, how many people are currently in the store, offer charging in 3 minutes. They could take care of all of that.
Exactly. And I mean, Whole Foods Market had $15 billion in revenue in 2020. So imagine if shoppers stayed longer and spent more money. It's just more money for Whole Foods, which is owned again by Amazon. And so this builds a brand loyalty and a stickiness. So if you've got your choice of places to go to for your shopping, but one of them offers EV charging, you're going to go there.
And even for non-Rivian owners, this adds a cachet and it adds a good look for Whole Foods, because it's like, look, we have special EV charging and here they are, and here are the Rivians. And it's also great advertising for Rivian, because now front and center outside of every Whole Foods is a bunch of pretty nice Rivians parked there. And everyone goes, if only I could be the one to own that. Then I could have the good parking spaces.
And when you get to the checkout and you get 5 cents off every bag that you bring in yourself, you could get maybe something off because you drove there in an electric car.
Yeah, I mean, it could link to your Amazon account. That could be how you're paying for the electricity. And not just the Rivian trucks. Let's talk about how this helps Amazon delivery. As we all know, Amazon ordered 100,000 electric delivery vans from Rivian. In fact, we saw the first few being delivered in LA last week.
And as this pandemic has shown, people like grocery deliveries. At the beginning of the pandemic, a third of U.S. households had their groceries delivered within a month.
And that means that all of these households have someone who has on their phone, oh, you know what? I don't feel like going to the grocery store. Let's just order it online. It'll arrive and then we'll make dinner. It's very easy for people and it's going to become very popular.
Now, since these groceries will be delivered more and more by electric vehicles, it only makes sense that you'd want charging right at the stores.
Now, we're not saying that you're going to have big Amazon delivery vans parked right in front of the store. That's probably going to happen in the back. But if you need to be digging a trench to bring in a bunch of power to charge those delivery vans, you may as well, in that same conduit that you have to run anyway, and the most of the cost comes from digging the trench to put the conduit in, you may as well run a thing to charge the fast chargers for the Rivians. But my problem here is that the Whole Foods don't solve all the long-distance Electrify America gaps.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Rivian should focus on the highway gap locations for their adventure network first. But the Whole Foods Market chargers do increase adoption where most of these owners are going to live.
That's true. I mean, if you were to take a cross-section of potential Rivian owners and people who live near a Whole Foods, I think that Venn diagram is going to look like a circle, because it's going to almost perfectly overlay.
And I would argue that Amazon should pay for what I'm going to call the prime spots.
And those could be, right out in front of the Whole Foods.
Yep. And then Rivian could call their network the Whole Adventure Network.
Like Whole Foods. Okay. Nice.
All right. For me, the Whole Food Market charger idea does two important things for these new Rivian owners. So picture this kind of adventure that many of these owners will take in their shiny new Rivians. They're going to the mountains to go skiing, or they're going to the lake house to go fishing with the family. They get on their app, on their Better Route Planner app, and they see that a charging station is available at a familiar Whole Foods Market. Great, family, you can hop into the market and go shopping while we wait for the Rivian to charge. You stop to get a charge, you buy some groceries. It's a win-win for Amazon and Rivian. Amazon can now expand their customer base as Rivian expands their customers. And I think Whole Foods Market makes a lot of sense, because what other chain would do the trick here? First of all, Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. They have 500 locations. That's the perfect number. They have the perfect brand integration. They have the perfect fit with Rivian customers, and they're also perfect for urban dwellers. If you live in an apartment in a city and you can't really install a charger at your building, there's going to be a Whole Foods most likely in your city that you can go charge at.
But no one who owns a Rivian is going to live in an apartment.
You could, though, now is what I'm saying. This is something that I think up until now doesn't really fit the urban sensibility. Owning a pickup truck is like, well, that's a big gas guzzling vehicle.
Yeah, and there's actually plenty of people who own pickup trucks and live in cities. They might have jobs out in the country or whatever, but living in a city doesn't preclude them from owning a pickup truck.
And what I'm saying is a lot of people don't own a pickup truck because they get really bad gas mileage, and you might not want to put gas into a vehicle at all, which means you're forced to choose a Tesla or a Leaf.
Right.
Now, when Rivian opens up this new option, it's a pickup truck, but it's electric, and so that might fit you perfectly, except, I can't install charging.
And again, this is where this charging option makes total sense. And I would argue that there are lots of Tesla owners that can't charge at home, who rely on urban charging. That's why Tesla did it in the first place, to charge their vehicles. You only need to stop about once a week because you have a nice big battery. So just like a gas tank, you're not going to the gas station every day to pump up. You're most likely going once a week. And what do you need to do once a week? Go shopping. It makes perfect sense. And in fact, I think that this is a way for Rivian to kind of leapfrog Tesla, getting a better charging infrastructure. There's a lot of both urban and, long distance Tesla superchargers that aren't in the most ideal, locations. I think that Electrify America, being at a Walmart, while we say, Rivian and Porsche owners aren't going to want to stop at a Walmart, Walmart has all the things that you need while you might be out on the road. If you need a snack, there's food. If you need to go to the bathroom, they have bathrooms. And if you need anything else, they pretty much have it. For the everyday charging, for the every week charging, this makes total sense, whether you live in the city or even in the suburbs.
I've been kind of surprised over the years that there haven't been more Tesla superchargers opened up at Whole Foods markets. I think it's probably because of Jeff Bezos and Elon not really seeing eye to eye on much stuff. I mean, look at Blue Origin and SpaceX. So this is something that either Tesla should just make a real hard move on and try and get into, or Rivian should take advantage of this opportunity, because it really is an opportunity in my mind. EV owners really do fit the Whole Food customer base really well. But we'd like to hear what you have to say. So, leave your comments down below. Maybe you've got a way better idea, or maybe you've got some holes you can point out in our argument. We'd love to read about them.
Thank you so much for watching. Now you know.